Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I have a very special guest. I'm so excited. I am just jumping with joy. Oh my god, I have the best friend and opening act of Sam Kinison. This guy was with Sam from the very beginning, day one, all the way to the very end. He saw Sam at his absolute best and Sam at his absolute worst. His name is Carl LaBove, and I'm having him on the show today. Talk about Sam, talk about his own career. He was his opening act for those 14 years that Sam was active in stand-up comedy. And Carl also had some acting roles in some small part acting roles in some cult 80s movies. And I want to bring all that stuff up today and talk about the Comedy Store as well, and his now residency in Las Vegas. And it's going to be pretty fucking cool. I can't wait, with Carl LaBove, a comedy legend. So, here is my interview with Carl LaBove.
Hello.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Yeah. It's such an honor. I thank you for taking the time today.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like comic chat, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, going back to the beginning, I know you had originally set out to be an actor, but did you know that you were funny when you were growing up?
My dad was hysterically funny.
Mm-hmm.
My aunts and uncles were great. So growing up, sense of humor was like really important because I saw so many people affected by it. Mm-hmm. So I was class clown in high school, and a jock, but the funny jock, and It was just a muscle. But I had really great teachers, and so they pushed me toward like being the commissioner of assemblies and things like that, where I could do sketch comedy and things for the school at the awards and seminars and different things that they did. So it really kind of developed timing and creating a show and creating entertaining. So I didn't see myself as a stand-up. I wanted to be an actor. Mm-hmm. But I think that pushed me in a way where I started to see the possibilities of bringing that into stand-up.
Mm-hmm. Did you do plays at community theater when you were in school?
No. It wasn't until I graduated that a teacher talked me into auditioning for an acting school in Los Angeles, which was such a wild idea to me. I was going to go to a small college with all my buddies and continue football and baseball. And I just liked the idea. It kind of hit home with me. So I went and auditioned, and I got the audition, and I studied under a guy named Don Greer, who was a really good teacher in Los Angeles. And I learned a lot. I learned, camera. I learned acting with my body and my eyes and emotions and all this other great stuff as, a 17-year-old turning 18. And I just fell in love with it. So I did a bunch of movies as an extra. And I got to watch, some really famous actors perform and be around them when they were doing it. So it was just such a great experience. I like that life, It just totally changed my direction.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you in a little bit about some of the acting roles that you did. But first, I was curious, how did stand-up begin for you?
I lived 4 hours away from Los Angeles at the time. So I would drive down to L.A. 2 times a week. So I'd spend 10 hours in the car, depending on traffic, twice a week to go to these classes in Los Angeles. And then I had to be back in time for my job at 6 o'clock in the morning at a country club that I had. in those adventures, of being down there. I couldn't study. I do a lot of scene work with other actors, so my instructor would have me write a 5-minute scene that was by myself. So it always turned out to be comedic, and it was a blast. And one night he said, "You got to go by the Comedy Store and we'll see stand up. You have a flair for it.
Mm-hmm.
So one night, just driving out of the acting class, I decided to go by the Comedy Store, and I went in, and you had to be 21, but I was already losing my hair. I carried myself well, and my last name is LaBove. Well, the guy that used to own the main room in the Comedy Store, his name was Art LaBove.
Right.
So when the doorman read my ID, he didn't read it out. He went, "Oh, this must be Art LaBove's son." And I got in twice on my ID, and they treated me like gold. I couldn't have figured it out. And they thought I was the owner's son. And I got to watch 2 different weekends of stand-up. 2 different weeks in a row where I went to the store just to see what stand-up was like. But God, I saw Robin Williams and, all these other great guys. And it was mesmerizing. That was a whole different life. But I didn't end up doing it for a couple years later.
Wow. Wow. You have a very high energy improvisational style on stage. Where did that come from?
Over the years, I've had many sets, many hours of stand-up sets. Mm-hmm. And I write them toward different, emotions that I'm growing through at the time in life. And, like the set that I did when I was in my 20s is not the set I'm doing now. So there's been many, recreations of approaching stand-up. And one of the things that I got from acting that I always wanted to do in stand-up is I can't say it. Being authentic, how's that?
Yeah.
I wanted to be authentic. And so I started working on that approach about, 15 years ago. And then, it's different than going up and doing bits in people's faces or having a character.
Right.
I wanted it to be more me. And so I think life, aging, life experiences, confidence, all that stuff grows into what you're doing, and it brings it on. And the next thing you know, you're kind of being yourself up there. And you're more relaxed. You're able to think clearer. And that's what I've been working on. And so in that, I can be free. I can think. I can go with the moment. I can listen. I can hear something going on in the audience, and I can create something from it. So it's a challenge for me every time, too. It's not just I do that. It's the fact that I go up and I'm open to it. So I put myself in that position where I can just change my act right in the middle. I can do 2 prepared routines, but then I can go off for 30 minutes and do whatever I want once I step into that mindset. So that's just a muscle I've developed over the years that gives me, I'm excited to do it. Stand-up is so exciting to me because there's so much potential in the set.
Mm-hmm.
I can have this weekend I did the Friday and Saturday show. Mm-hmm. Friday was completely different from Saturday's show. Completely different. The material was different. The energy was different. The approach was different. And it's, that's why I wanted to do this art form so many years ago. And now I'm getting to live out that part of it that I've been searching for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Different material. Speaking of different material every time, one of the great guys that ever did that was Richard Jeni.
Yeah.
That guy was just a killer. Yeah. Oh, my God. That guy could do 4 sets in one night and never the same material.
Uh-huh. Yeah. He's one of those guys that tapped into that same thing, And you have to be very clear-minded, and you can't think about it. It's like a great athlete. A great golfer. They have the best rounds of their lives. They shoot a record score 60 on a course that's never been done, or 58, Mm-hmm. You're mindless when you do that. You're not concentrating, oh my God, I've got to do this on the last hole. You don't think that way. You're just thinking about a perfect swing. If I just do the mechanics, it'll all come through. And you're in a zone. It's the same with stand-up.
Mm-hmm. Were you influenced by anybody in particular?
yeah, I was just talking about this the other night. I watched stand-up in high school. My dad and I used to watch the Tonight Show together, and we loved comedy, and so of course I was watching all the guys that were hit it big. David Brenner, and he was great, and all these guys that I was watching at the time. And Steve Martin came out. I caught him once, and they announced that he was going to be on again. And so I told everyone in school, my buddies, like, you got to watch this new guy. His name's Steve Martin, And so everybody watched, and he came out on stage, and he was horrible. He was bombing for like 2 minutes. And it was the second time on The Tonight Show. It was uncomfortable. And I was like, wow, I get to see a guy bomb. This is horrible. And he went right into, excuse me, went all this stuff so quickly. And it was rushed, and it was lacking confidence. And I was like, wow, this sucks.
Wow.
After a minute of doing this, the curtains behind him start to move. And then the real Steve Martin comes out tied to a chair. And he goes, he's an imposter. And the guy ran off, and Steve Martin broke out of the ropes of the chair. And hello, everybody. And he took over the show for the next 5-6 minutes. Killed, destroyed. And it was such a great trick because he knew America didn't know him yet. So he's just getting big enough to where people are starting to do impressions of him.
Yeah.
He hired an impersonator to do the opening minute or two of his set. And then he came out and did this bit. And that's when I realized stand-up is not just about standing on a microphone telling jokes. It can be a performance. And I really liked it then. So he was probably the biggest influence on me because, several years later I ended up seeing it. And another 2 years after that, I ended up doing it.
Oh my God. That's crazy. They wouldn't be able to get away with that today, I'll tell you.
Right.
Now, I've often...
It was perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was perfect. Now, I've often heard you say in interviews that the first time that you met Sam, you thought he was the owner of the club.
Yeah. Yeah, because, he had quit the ministry 2 weeks earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So he wore a suit. He had, I think 15 suits. And he wore a suit, and he carried himself maturely. He was probably 24. And, but he had been a preacher for, since he was 18. So he just carried himself like that, and I just assumed he was the owner. Turns out he wasn't, obviously.
And Bill Hicks was like 16. Did he have the stage presence and the mind that he later became infamous for?
No, he wasn't that guy yet. It came from some of his experience, all of his experiences as stand-up. But he was fun and easygoing, and he was a high school kid who had it. He was the class clown vibe. He was there. He was full of joy. You had to drive him home by 10, and he was the youngest of, I guess 12 of us that were there at the time. So, it was great to watch that develop, too, as we all did. We're all on a journey, And that's what I liked about starting at that club in Texas was the fact that nobody knew anything. We were all supporting each other. We were all making sure no one bombed each night because none of us knew how to do a 15-minute set when we first started, but we had to.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was only 12 of us, and the show had to last for 3 or 4 hours at least. We had this little 80-seat club, and we all used to go up and just push each other. And if someone started not to do well, then the others would go on and attack him on stage and just create such mayhem that it was entertaining. And we'd find ways out of it. We found out how to stretch a show and make it last longer and involve the audience in the fun of the experience. So it was really a great time in life, and like a band, we runs out of songs, but you got another hour. So we just learned how to make it happen, how to continue it. We learned how to riff.
Yeah, in those days, you guys had that advantage to fail, and everything would be all right. Now, my generation, we can't fail. We have to.
Or else you don't get to go to the club anymore. I know.
Yeah,
it's totally different.
Yeah, the landscape is completely different, you know. I was born in the wrong time.
You're born when you're supposed to be, brother. There's just things to do at every level, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if we would have had phone cameras back then, half of us would have had a career, you know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, how you look at stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So in 1980, you and Sam meet Argus Hamilton while he's doing a show in Texas, and he asks you guys to come out to the Comedy Store.
No, he just offered it to us if you're ever out there, because we all kind of bonded up. He was with a guy named Ollie Joe Prater, who was just a monster of comedy, and we just hit it off with these guys, and you know, so the offer was there. Like, they liked us too. It's like, if you're ever out in LA, you know, give me a call and I'll set you up. I'll get you a spot or whatever at the world famous Comedy Store, which was, you know, our goal as young comics is to get accepted there, because it seemed like everybody in the country that was a comic was slowly moving. You know, you had your choice, New York or LA. And the Boston comics were phenomenal.
Yep.
Texas was developing. And there wasn't clubs in every state like there is now. So it was really special when you found that one spot where all the guys that were doing what you were doing kind of met up. And so we wanted to go out there. So when we did move out in LA, we met Argus in 79, we moved to LA in 80. You know, we rolled out there, and he got us a job as doorman.
Wow.
So that's how we started. We were doormen at the Comedy Store.
And when you got there in 1980, what comics were there?
Well, all the guys that went on to have TV series in the 80s. So I'm you know, Arsenio Hall was there, the Wayans brothers, Jim Carrey came out in 82. And of course, the guys that were older school that were already starting to do, you know, you had Howie Mandel's, and you had Pryor started to work out. Belushi was just coming around to hang out. Let's see, Michael Keaton was the end of his stand-up career around that time. So you saw, you know, Kip Adada, you saw a lot of guys that were, you know, just masters of the craft. And this is just a hair before a lot of these people broke for television, and things were starting to happen. You know, Paul Mooney, Paul Mooney was phenomenal. He did the late night sets. Dave Tyree, all these guys that just had something to say, really strong. A lot of them turned into writers. So, you know, you saw this budding creative group of guys, and the store was packed all the time. It was just, there's an energy to it, and to be a part of that solar system that place was, you know, you never knew what was going on in each room. It was great.
Yeah, a couple of people I've interviewed from that time, like Lois Bromfield and Louise Duarte and Lori Jacobson, who was a waitress there from 81 to 82, they all told me that place was the Studio 54 of Hollywood. I mean, there was sex and cocaine going on all the time there.
Yeah. Well, you also had, you know, the hard rock, and you had all the bands playing just down the street, so they started coming around for the late night stuff, and then you had the actors that were sneaking out to be bad boys and girls. They ended up there, so you never knew who you were going to run into. And so it was a great place when you were despondent, you were depressed, you only made $100 a week, you were a doorman, you never got to perform. And then you saw some of these great comedic moments happen, and it just inspired you, like, that might be me one day. You know, I might be a part of something like that one day. And it really turned into that energy that propels you into the next day, the next day. The next thing you know, a year's gone by, and you were going to quit, you know, 2 months in because you were so despondent about your career, or I'll never make it, because you're a big fish in a small pond until you move there, and then you just disappear because the talent is so unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I called it comedy college.
Mm-hmm.
You just pay for your books, go to class every night. Everybody that went on that stage was teaching you something, and that's how I ended up looking at it.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I went there for the first time, thinking that the old system was still there from when Mitzi was running the place. Right, this is just before the Comedy Store podcast came out, so I did not know how the rules were. So I go there. I'm walking down that ramp. I get a shudder down my back because that's where Steve Lubekin landed when he jumped off of the Hyatt. And I sign up. I'm one of 75 guys. I don't get on, but then I go to watch Potluck, and I could just feel the presence of dead comics in the room with, how ghostly that place is.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I belong there. I feel like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Like I'd always been there. It was a really cool feeling.
What I think that place it has so many performers from the 20s or 30s on. It used to be Ciro's. It used to be a place that every performer back in those days would go to perform. Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin, they performed there, blah,
right.
blah, blah. So there's a history in those walls. And to be a part of that, to live it every night, I lived through a lot of ghost stories there. I lived through a lot of stuff that was unbelievable. When I was a doorman there, I saw a lot of stuff that was freaky and scary and all that now. But, now that I've lived through all that, now I'm a part of that building. So when I walk in, I don't feel the ghost. I feel the energy of, how many people have been entertained. And that the best part is I'm surrounded by my own kind. I think a lot of comedians are, you feel alone until you meet a certain group, that creative group. And when I got to the store, I finally felt like I belonged somewhere in life. I always felt a little off kilter. I wasn't, but I always felt that I was, because I thought differently than everybody else. They took things so serious, and I knew how to see the light side of it or whatever. And then to be around the same kind of people, it's like you find your home. So that's what that place meant to me.
Mm-hmm. You got that feeling too.
Mm-hmm.
So when Sam did the Rodney special in '85 and he took off and everything, I mean, that must have been so insane to go from poverty to to money after struggling for so long.
Absolutely. I mean, but it was something that we talked about every night. I mean, as friends, it was like, we moved out to LA together, and so it's like our dream was to be in films together and everything else, because I was more of I'm a performer. I'm not a stand-up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I learned that my side of it was to approach the stand-up as a performance, whereas Sam was a true stand-up. And so we were so different, yet our goals were the same. And we had these dreams and visions. So somebody was always either making enough money to feed the other one, or we found a place to live so the other one could live there too, and so forth. It was, survival, absolute survival, with joy. And then when, Rodney happened to see him on that night and give him the HBO spot, we worked on that spot for 2 months every night. So we would take it home, write down exactly what he had done, then work on those little small intricate pieces, how he should shift from one joke to the next joke. Is it with a look? Is it with a physical walk? And really worked on it so that when it did come out, it was a success. We both felt like we had accomplished the importance of that, that spot. And it did. When it came out, everything changed. And we went from, no one knowing him to the phone ringing all the time. And then we started doing gigs together. And we started to go out on the road and for money. So, years of not making any money and barely getting by, stealing fruit from the bar and eating cherries and orange slices at night at 2 o'clock in the morning in my car. He slept in the back seat, I slept in the front seat, looking at Los Angeles, going, maybe one day we can own this town, you know, just supporting and pushing each other to be better every single night and not get caught up in the depression of it not happening. And then when it does happen, it's like there's this pride of, you know, we worked so hard for this, and we finally got here.
Yeah.
So to know that you were right was the best part. We were right in believing in each other. We were right for struggling so hard and having our families look down on us. And what are you doing? You know, both of you could do other things better than the starving thing you're doing, you know, because they didn't understand the passion of it. They didn't see the dream that we both saw. So in that aspect, it was great. It was phenomenal.
You guys were finally accepted by your peers then.
Well, you know, I mean, the peers, we'd already been accepted by the peers because they'd seen us do the work. It was the public started to see what was going on, and people started showing up at the shows. And then you go from 600 people to 1,000 people to 1,500. The numbers grow. You know what I mean? That was what was fun about it. And it was at that heyday. It was at that, you know, mid-'80s, right when comedy was rock and roll, and we were rock and roll. We're both musicians and ended up, you know, creating a band and traveling with it, and, you know, living out all the things that we wanted to live out in many different areas, you know.
Absolutely. So let me ask you about some of your acting roles here. How did you get cast in Graydon Clark's High Riders?
Well, Graydon Clark came to Don Greer's acting class that I was in, and I did a scene in front of him, not knowing that there was somebody there, a producer there. And I did a scene, and I got the role that night. So that movie got me in Screen Actors Guild, and I was, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of a film, and it was like a biker flick that did well at drive-ins, better in Europe than in the States, but it went through the drive-in. So it was cool to go back to my hometown 2 years after graduating high school with a movie out and my name in the credits, and it got me in Screen Actors Guild, and all my friends got to go see me. That was a really fun experience. But I also paid off all my father's debts because my dad helped me get through acting school. He got 2 jobs. He was in the Air Force, and he sold cars to help me pay for my acting schools. So it was a nice full circle. It was a great experience, and that's how I got it, just by doing well in class one night.
And 2 legendary actors are in this movie, Mel Ferrer and Ralph Meeker. Did you meet and work with those guys?
Oh, yeah. Ralph Meeker was a huge star in the 50s and 60s.
Right.
He was an older man who had suffered a stroke, so he was really nice. But Neville Brand was who I hung out with a lot. And Neville Brand was a war hero. He did the Tonight Show a million times. They loved him. And he was a huge character actor. He did a lot of films with the biggest names. And he was a blast to be around. I turned 19 on that set, and my family came down, and nobody could have been nicer than Neville Brand because my parents knew who Neville Brand was.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was classy.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Graydon Clark, he gave Andrew Dice Clay his first movie role a few years later in Wacko.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was a horror movie parody. It's a pretty funny movie, too. Yeah. Then you were in one of my favorite comedies of all time, Night Patrol. That scene you were in is fucking hilarious. You're all sharing all these perverted pedophile stories, and like Murray Langston's like, I used to go out into the fields and make it with a sheep, and then you're all like, get the fuck out of here, you sicko.
Yeah, that was a great time for us too, because Murray asked us to be in his film, and nobody had anything going on. It was like, oh, it's great. So we got to be in a movie, and I think we were all doormen at the time, and our good friend Freddie Asparagus was in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bill Kirkenbauer. Yeah. Bill Kirkenbauer.
You know, to film all that stuff was just so fun because it was all comics, you know, and then Murray especially. But I used to watch Murray all the time on the Sonny and Cher show.
Yeah.
So I was a big fan of his, and to get to meet him back in those days was just, you know, it was like all those people that you wanted to meet when you were younger, and then you find yourself on the set with them or with him directing you, and you know, you can't talk about that then. It's just that you, in your brain, you can't help but go, wow, all I did was will this. I wanted this years ago. And that whole thing of working toward it and then forgetting about it, get lost in what you're doing. And then the next thing you know, you're around those people you always wanted to meet. So that's the fun part of all this, you know?
Yeah. Earlier this year, I was at a film festival that Jackie Kong was at, and she actually had to leave early the only day that I was there, and I didn't get to meet her, but I wanted to ask her, you know, she likes to cast comedians in movies, even before and after this. Like, she did a movie right after this called Blood Diner, and she gave Don Barris a role in that, and I asked him about it when I had him on the podcast. Yeah, but hopefully I'll get to meet her someday. Then you had a hilarious cameo in Jumpin Jack Flash.
Yeah, working with Penny Marshall and Whoopi Goldberg. And what I liked most about that day is I had become really good friends with Rob Williams.
Yeah.
And who was also one of my heroes. And we had become real buddies. And he found out that Penny had come to the comedy store that week and had seen me and gave me the part of the security guard. I mean, it was just a day's shoot. But, you know, here I am working with Penny, who, of course, I'd watched some of Laverne and Shirley with my family, so it was all great. And I went to shoot that day's work, and I told Robin that I'd be hanging out with Whoopi and Penny the next day, and he showed up and spent the whole day with me.
Wow.
So anytime they said cut, Robin basically did a show. He just went off. So I got to laugh with him. I got to, you know, perform all day with him and then do my own scenes and everything else. So it was just a really great experience.
Nice. Yeah, about a year ago, I interviewed Penny's daughter, Tracy, and she was a lot of fun. And I was very lucky to get an interview with her. Yeah, that whole scene is great because Whoopi is under that truth serum and she's like tripping balls, you know, in your security. Yeah. She's like,
I think she says, "You see this face? This is the face of a woman in torment, a face of a woman in hell."
Yeah.
So you're either gonna, and I look at her and I got to make up my own line. I said, "I know my wife's got the same face."
Yeah. And she.
So that was improvising with Whoopi in the moment,
and
plus having Robin around, creating such an improvisational situation, everything got loose. So by the time we filmed that, you know, I was able to think that line up, and then they kept it.
Yeah, and she says, "Do you want to work here or do you want to live?" And you're like, "I quit."
Yes. And I had really long hair. I bald on top, but I had a ponytail down the middle of my back. So when I went to makeup and hair, I said, "Here's what I want you to do." So it was great because it looks like I have a short haircut with the hat on that I'm wearing as a security guard. And when I take it off, I've got it pasted like a comb over with spaces in between it. So it's very quick. You see it. But for me, it was like, oh, wow, this is great. There's another laugh here. You know, it's when I take my hat off.
Yeah. That's a very funny scene. And then you had a scene that was cut out from Ace Ventura.
Yeah, it's on the TV version, so when it comes on TV. But, you know, I'd known Jim a long time, and then I was dating a girl. We're actually still best of friends now. But Jim and his wife were great friends with me and my girl. And we went over to their house all the time. So when he got Ace Ventura, he asked my girl to be his personal assistant because she had worked for Mel Brooks at that time as his personal assistant. So she knew what to do. Obviously, your life is very, very hectic. Everything's happening, and you're going to do a movie, and you don't have any time to deal with your private life. So that was her job, and she helped him memorize his lines and kept him afloat and everything going on every day. Anyway, he got us a house down in Florida, and we moved out there for, I think it was 3 or 4 months. And then they came across a particular scene where they needed the bar scene where he finds the place kicker's house. And I was the leader of that particular group at the bar. So, yeah. And again, a lot of improv within the shooting because we knew each other so well. So we shot it a couple times, and then all of a sudden the funny started to come out of it. It was just fun. It was a blast. So, yeah, I got on the TV version of it. And the best part was I got to meet the editor of that movie, and the editor of that movie used to do the Pink Panther movies.
Oh.
So it was really cool to know him afterwards. So I remember one of my Christmas gift a year later was all the scenes and the film spliced together in a big canvas of me and Jim and all the stuff that happened on that day's shoot. So it was great.
Yeah, I'm a big Pink Panther guy. Those are classics, classic comedies. Yeah, I saw that version on the TV version, and then I have the DVD with that deleted scene and a couple others. Gotcha. It should have stayed in the movie, but I guess it was cut because it slowed the pace down or something.
No, it's because the movie was very short. By the way, it was only an hour and 20 minutes long. So when it went to television, they had to add 10 more minutes to make it an hour and a half.
Oh, I
so
see.
They put in the extra scenes for TV, but in the film version, it was quick and to the point. So it was an hour 20.
Oh, okay. You did an episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah, The Kiss.
Yeah.
That was the 100th episode of the show. So, to take it back a little bit, obviously I told you I was a doorman for some 3.5 years at the store, maybe 4 years. And at one point, Mitzi made me manager over at the Westwood Comedy Store. So my job was to get over there by, 4 o'clock and start calling. Comics would call me from 4 to 5 and tell me if they were available to perform that night.
Right.
And then from 5 to 6, I would create a lineup of guys following each other, so I had to learn the ebb and flow of the show. You can't have 4 high-energy guys in a row. So the guys that were joke writers, they went on a certain time, and then the guy that was high energy would go on a certain time. And you want to pop the room and then start over again with rhythm so that the room pops 3 or 4 times during the course of a night. So I learned that, but I also had to call and got calls from like Larry David, Michael Richards, and they were fresh off a show called Fridays.
Right.
So it was great to watch them work out. And I just really liked Larry David because he was one of those guys, he either did really well or he bombed. And when he bombed, it was just as funny as doing really well. I mean, he was brilliant, and I loved it. I loved watching him. And so years later, as an actor, I got called out to an audition for the episode called The Kiss, where I come off an elevator, and they want to put everyone's picture. Kramer wants to put everyone's picture in the lobby. Jerry doesn't want his picture in the lobby. So he steals a picture of Jerry, puts it up there. Now everyone that lives in the building has their picture on the wall. And he's explaining to Jerry how great this is. And then I come out of the elevator, and I go, "Hey, Cosmo," because he changed his name for 2 episodes back to his original name, which is Cosmo. And he turns around, looks at me, and goes, "Hey, Steve." And he spots my name on the wall, my picture. He goes, "See, Jerry? Now you know." So anyway, I got a bunch of scenes, and so I went to audition. Well, I'm in a room with 30 other actors, and I'm the last one called. And you had to walk up Larry David's staircase to his office. It was a huge office. You walked into the door. He was about 30 feet on the other side of the room behind his desk, and he would say, "Okay, read the lines." And he would read whatever lines that they had on the paper for you. And then he was dismissing people. They'd go up, they'd be up there for 10 seconds, they'd come back down, they'd say goodbye to the other actors, they'd leave. And I'd gotten there early, and now here I am late. So I finally was the last one. I walked upstairs. He goes, just read the first line. I go, hey, Cosmo! And he goes, you got it. I go, what? He goes, you got the part. I said, oh, great, thanks. I appreciate it, Larry. He goes, hey, I appreciated all the spots in Westwood.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So it was like, you know what I mean? It was like, he recognized the name, he remembered me, and all I had to do was just read it right, and he goes, yep. So I got to be on that set for their 100th episode and go to their celebration party where they went into what we call residual heaven.
That's cool. Yeah, that's one of those episodes that it's not considered a classic. It's more like a lost gem, you know? Not one of those ones that people think about the most, that episode.
Yeah, well, he was great. I mean, he used so many comics, you know?
Oh, yeah. A lot of great comics were on Seinfeld. Dom Irera was on there. Larry Miller was on there. God, so many of them. And Jerry, he was one of the few comics that Mitzi didn't pass.
Yeah. Well, she wasn't right all the time.
Yeah.
Nobody's 100%.
Yeah. What was your reaction when you found out that Mitzi passed?
Well, she'd been sick a long time. So, you know, anybody who's lived long enough to gone through their own parents and sickness and see somebody who's going through, you know, the mental health issues and dementia and, you know, the body. Basically, you're alive, but your body's already dead. You know, I mean, it was sad. So there was just a mixture of, you know, thankfully that part of it's gone. Now, whatever adventure is waiting for us all next, she's getting to live, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's death, it was a relief for her.
Yeah.
I knew her as a very energetic, high-energy woman, point of view. You know, she was just all over the place. She had her fingers in so many pies. She was just, you know, she was a very creative person, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And to have a sickness hit you where, you know, your body starts to fail, and then you're basically stuck in a body that can't move, and you can only mumble, and you can't say what you really feel anymore, and you've got caretakers, and people treat you like a baby when you've been so powerful in life, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, so that's really it. But then the nostalgia of the person hits you later, you know, because of death. You start to remember all of the times she treated me like shit, the times I couldn't get past, how long it took me when she punished me as a young guy because I wouldn't do what she wanted her to do, and all that stuff you go through, almost like a parent, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes, you know, that has to happen. It goes with the territory, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. One of her mottos was, if I can stop you, then you can be stopped. So how bad do you want this, you know?
Mm-hmm. When was the last time you had seen her?
10 years earlier, probably 10 years ago, maybe. I went out, she was sick, and Paulie took me over. I asked Paulie if he would take me over to her house. So I went and hung out with her for a couple of hours, and she couldn't talk that well, but she could still laugh and you know, had sparkle in her eyes and could kind of communicate. But I just sat around and told her stories and reminisced for her, and, you know, she was proud of me, held my hand the whole time. So that was really my goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I got to have that, yeah. And I think a lot of guys did. A lot of people went back to her and thanked her. You know, at the time, she was just a tyrant club owner to a lot, and she was too dominating for others, and she was very sweet to others. Everybody has a different story with her.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine the thousands of comedians that went through her house? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She saw so many come and go. She saw so many die. She saw so many give up and leave. She, you know, she was on the cusp of having everybody at her club nightly, fighting for her attention, fighting to discover them, and all that other stuff that you can only imagine having the hottest club in the country. and having thousands of comics move there and want her attention. So she managed that pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So when Sam died in 1992, after that you went through many years of dark times, but now things have turned around for you. You're in Las Vegas. What brought you there?
I was hanging out with Dice. Dice and I have been friends since the beginning also. Mm-hmm. And last year, Dice called me up and said that, his Eleanor opens for him. Yeah. And she's been a friend for a really long time. And she had a gig, and he goes, I was just thinking, we haven't worked together in so long, Wouldn't it be great if you could, like, my special guest this weekend, and we hung out at my house, and I got a house in Vegas, and we can go there and hang out and catch up. And it was just out of the blue, and I went, that sounds great. So I went, we hung out, and I met some people that he knows, and it led to them wanting to know if they could try to get me my own show here in Vegas, and I let it happen and didn't put my, how sometimes we go, nah, it's not my thing, I'm not into that. I just started looking at life as has so many doors, and I was always saying no to shit, and I went, sure, go ahead, give it a shot. And then next thing you know, 5 months later, I was in Vegas with my own show at Bally's, and I did that show for 8 months, and then Caesars bought the room back from the guy who was renting me the room. Mm-hmm. And a day after that room closed, the Tropicana called and gave me the Friday and Saturday night. So that's where I've been for 2 months now. So every Friday and Saturday at the Tropicana, I've got the midnight show.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was in the official residency?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. Yeah, Harry Basil runs the Tropicana, doesn't he?
Yep. And we go all the way back to, I think, 83 or 84.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah,
a lot of life is just surviving long enough and then staying ready for the moment. Mm-hmm. We've all been around. We all know how to work it. We all know how to, take an audience for a ride. And I just didn't want anger to be a part of my life. I know so many guys that are my age that are just so full of anger and shit. And I'd already been through that. I didn't like that guy. I didn't like carrying that anger. Yeah. And then, years ago, I just dropped it and started finding the joy of what I do. And then all of a sudden, once that personality change happened, then doors started opening. Then work started coming in again. And it's like, life is a roller coaster. It's ups and downs and blah, blah, blah. So I just survived so much. And then to get to this is the most fun work I've had in so long. And I'm surrounded by comics, and I get to bring guests on, and then I do 50 minutes. Of whatever I want to do at 12 o'clock. So there's no rules to it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I got lucky, and I was ready and prepared. It's almost like I've worked all this time to get to this, at this time in my life,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you've remained positive.
Yeah. Well, the trick to life is redefining yourself after life experiences. So, every 10 years, who are you now? Yeah. It's one thing to be young and 20 and I'm going to live forever, but what are you going to do when you're 50? What do you do then? Are you still hip? Do you still communicate well? Do people still get you? Are you staying true to who you really are as an artist? Then they'll grow with you when they see that you are. So it's just being in the moment, staying true to yourself and not turning into one thing, being yourself freely at all times. And then those doors keep fucking opening. It's like, boom, this is a blast. I'm enjoying my life so much.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, I got hit by a car a couple of years ago, and that's what made me want to, attempt that being professional in stand-up and show business in general and stuff. And I've been, pursuing my dream here, starting this podcast and everything. And I just, there are days when I'm pessimistic and cynical, but then there's a lot of days when I'm, positive.
Well, we're all going to go through the doubts, but it's just getting up the next day and continuing the work.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's what a lot of people get into the doubts and then they quit. Well, you don't even know if you would have hung out another 2 weeks and just kept going, what would have opened up for you? You don't know. So giving up, nobody will know your potential.
Mm-hmm.
Fighting through it, even when it sucks and it hurts and you can barely pay your bills, but yet you just don't quit.
And sometimes you need to fall to get back up again.
Well, there's lessons in that too, correct.
Mm-hmm.
You only get 2 or 3 shots at life, you know. I mean, if you believe in reincarnation.
Yeah. that I do. I'm also glad you've also gotten Steve Pearl gigs. To me, he's the funniest guy alive.
I've always loved Pearl.
Yeah.
Always been, to be around now. Last night, we were hanging out, and Dice did the 10 o'clock show this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So we were hanging out with Dice, and just the riffing going on. Eleanor Kerrigan was backstage, and we're all so close, know each other forever.
Yeah.
And we're crying like 10-year-olds, because we're taking turns riffing. We're telling stories.
Yeah.
And Steve wasn't on stage last night, but he was off stage. He was on last night. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve,
He kills me.
The world needs Steve Pearl. He's just the funniest guy, And one of my favorite stories about Steve, back when you guys first knew him at the Comedy Store, Mark Maron asked him if he wanted to come back to Crest Hill and hang out with Sam, and Steve said, "I don't want to hear another story about how Sam invented paper and the printing press and gravity."
Yeah, that's right.
I love that story. Do you have any upcoming gigs you want to plug?
Well, let's see. I'm not doing too many gigs right now because I'm enjoying my Vegas thing so much. So every Friday and Saturday, 12 o'clock at the Tropicana, the midnight show starring Carl LaBove. And then I'm going to Arizona next month. I'm taking Steve Pearl with me, by the way.
Nice.
January 10 through 12. I'm at Stir Crazy Comedy Club in Phoenix.
Okay, Stir Crazy Comedy Club in Phoenix. Oh, wow. Well, Carl, thank you so much for your time. I'm glad you're working and things are better for you. I hope we get to meet someday, maybe in Vegas or somewhere. Happy holidays, and God bless you.
Bless you too, man. And, keep life in the ass as hard as you can.
Yes. Fight for what you want. Fight for your dream. Persistence.
That's right. That's right. If nobody believes in it, that's when you know you're onto something special. All right, brother. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Carl LaBove. Ain't he a cool dude? Thank you so much, Carl. I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation. You're a very inspiring man, very full of wisdom and humor and insight, and I'm so glad life is better for you. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!